Hi, this is Dave Bazar from the Almond Company.
And I'm Mike Fenn.
This is the latest. So we are trying to film a little something once a week to try to give you what we see in the moment. Obviously, once we finish this, the information probably becomes dated. Some of it may be true. Some of it we might find out something different. So we're going to start with the huller and what they're seeing. Last week we talked about the moistures were high on hull due to the weather conditions. We were asking you to please condition. I think those have improved. So the
smoke is cleared.
Yep.
Right, that was a big factor of it, it seemed like.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think the huller's now starting to see what would be more normal stuff coming in. So well done there. Do you know what else is going on in the huller, Mike?
I guess it may not be huller related, but feeding into the processor, we've received a substantial amount of NonPeril now. That's been USDA'd. And our average NonPeril size is about a 2730 to a 3032, at least a full size smaller than last year so far. We anticipate seeing an improvement in sizes, but it's also even translating into the independence, right? So the independence isn't really USDAing out until like a 1820 or a 2022, kind of those larger sizes that you'd kind of be used to with the independence. We're seeing a lot of 25, 27s. Yeah. You know, and that's kind of seeing like that's where that independence is starting to find its size.
And when I looked at that NonPeril sizing, it's almost 2 percentage
right.
point, or two
size
sizes
ranges
smaller.
down. Yeah,
absolutely. And that back to the huller then, some of that size probably is what's creating this lower turnout they're seeing.
Right.
So when I talk to the huller, they're still running a 1 percentage point lower as a turnout. I know at the huller, I'll keep right there. They're receiving, they told me, pretty much everything except Fritz, but still heavy on the NonPeril. So I'm sure their NonPeril harvest is going to be hot and heavy for at least another week.
And they're breaking records almost every day for loads received and stockpiled.
Yeah.
So it's coming in hot and heavy.
Yeah. And I guess a little shout out to them. They were saying that while they've gotten tight on trailers, that they've not, to their knowledge, not had to have anyone wait for a trailer. So we're pretty proud about that.
They're running how many sets? 325?
I think so.
Yeah.
So it's one of the larger
fleets of trailers.
Yeah, absolutely. Quick segue into the field. I was out there yesterday in some blocks that were, and I've heard this from before, Jerry was talking about it, is quite a bit of hull rot.
Right.
Those bread mold complexes, the ones that I were in were very unusual, that it was young blocks, and they were just specific on NonPeril. You saw a lot of dieback in there, and the Monterey was just fine.
Is it indicative of a younger orchard to have it, or is it kind of would it be across the board?
I think I'm going to be ignorant on that, but I would have thought a heavier, more mature orchard, something with a lot more humidity. This was in 2-year-old stuff, so it was a little unusual for the way I'd seen things. Mike, why don't you talk just general yield stuff we're seeing?
So the last numbers I got from the huller were we had run 11 million pounds field-to-field comparison, and we were up 10%. Vast majority of that comparison is NonPeril. I don't think there's really any pollinators in that number yet, and it does not include any third leaf either. So third leaf is kind of put out to the end, and that's when we'll start to run it towards the end of the hulling season. So.
And I know the south, when we've talked before, it's been off. I think that's improving. And then when we go to the north, say from Madera North, Merced, Stanislaus,
right,
dramatically
good
yields.
recovery.
Yeah.
Good recovery from last year.
But still, I think if we still all mix that together, we think it's trending probably below the estimate of 3 billion.
Right, but I think people's expectations aren't really anymore that 2.7 billion pounds that was kind of talked about after all the estimates had come out. But I think people's crop ranges are probably that 285 to just under 3 billion. You know, I think that's where people are kind of settling in.
We'll see next week. So why don't we finish up with you talking about what's happening in the market?
So the market has been active, predominantly on in-shell for the last week or so. Originally, we only had the Indian market playing. But now we actually have started to do some business in China. So they've been coming back and they've been more participative. I mean, it's not all of the Chinese playing, but we have decent traction there.
Europeans?
Europeans are starting to play, at least starting to kind of nibble around the edges. They're looking for like January shipments, which aren't as attractive, I think, to California. We're starting to see a little bit more of that traditional fourth quarter, like October, November, December type shipments start to come in. The dollar has been, pretty weak against the euro. So the last I looked, it was $1.19 to a euro. So that's good for us as exporters. I think another thing to be watching out for is next Friday, so September 11th, is the next position report. I think it's anticipated that shipments are going to be robust. Sales should be robust. And I think that generally the August position report will be bullish for California. I also think that people are starting to fill their Septembers in quite well. I know ours looks a lot better than it did last year. So I think for the first couple years of the 2020 crop year, I think you should be confident that you'll see, bullish news, really.
Yeah, and that's good. So we mentioned it last time that prices were starting to firm, and everything you're saying there should add to that.
I think so.
Okay. Well, this has been Dave Bazar.
And Mike Fenn.